And it's great to have you all back. And the truth is that I want to begin this new year with a bit of a trivia. So, this is not a trivia, but do you like the Beatles? Do you consider yourself as knowledgeable about the Beatles? I like those yes. Very good. So the trivia question for today is, who can tell me which one was the last song ever to be recorded by the Beatles before their breakup in April of 1970? It's not Let It Be. I got it. No. What was the last song that the Beatles recorded together before they broke up? No? Where is the knowledgeable folks? It's not Come Together. Nope. Nope. So nice. It's the song that they recorded last is I, Me, Mine. Do you know the song? I, Me, Mine is such a sad, powerful song. For those of you who may not remember, it begins all through the day, I, Me, Mine, I, Me, Mine, I, Me, Mine. All through the night, I, Me, Mine, I, Me, Mine, I, Me, Mine. Although George, Ringo, and Paul recorded this track in January of 1970, when John was already out, Harrison began writing the song a year before, as the Beatles were rehearsing for what ended up being that last concert that they gave on the iconic Apple Studios rooftop in January of 1969. Do you remember that concert, right? Very good. In his autobiography, Harrison writes that the inspiration for this song came both from his experimentation with LSD and also from some Hindu teachings that were close to his heart. But on top of all that, it was obvious that there was the clash of egos, and especially Harrison's feelings of being left out by both John and Paul, who didn't pay much attention to his songs. Egoism and self-absorption were running high all through those months. So it is not surprising that not long after the Beatles broke up, John would go and sing to the whole world that he no longer believed in the Bible, in Jesus, in Buddha, in Elvis, or the Beatles, among many other things. If you remember the song, he even said that he didn't believe in Zimmerman. But I'm sure that he did that, or he said that because he didn't know Fred. Hi, Fred. Otherwise, he certainly would have believed in Zimmerman. One way or another, in his song, John claimed that he just believed in himself, only to conclude, the dream is over. What can I say? The dream is over yesterday. I don't know if by 1969 George was mourning what John described as the dream, but I am fairly sure that he was expressing something very similar to what the Australian philosopher Glenn Albrecht has called solastalgia. Solastalgia. According to Albrecht, to this philosopher, solastalgia is the type of homesickness that we feel while we are still at home. Albrecht created this word to describe what is going on with the systematic destruction of multiple ecosystems all around the world, and with them, the many challenges that local ethnic groups are facing as they are forced to move somewhere else or to adapt to a depleted environment. And yet, I believe that this idea of solastalgia can be applied to what Harrison felt while composing I, Me, Mine. If you think about that, George was suffering the consequences associated to the gradual loss of that unique home that he created with John, with Ringo, with Paul, more than 10 years before. And by 1969, they were still there. They were still playing together and even having fun with one another. And yet something was missing. Something was no longer the same. The Beatles, as we know, were about to be gone. No more Let It Be, no more Here Comes the Sun, no more Across the Universe, to name a few. That was it. The dream was over. And at least from what we can tell, George was in pain. For each and every one of us, the sense of place is connected to the relationships that we forge in those specific locations. I am sure that if I ask you to remember your favorite places in the world, you will automatically think about the people you were in those favorite places, or about the people you brought to those specific locations because they were so meaningful to you. Our homes are not so much about geography as they are about mutual responsibility, empathy, and love. The places that anchor us are the places where we feel free to be ourselves with no second thoughts. Those places are the places that define our personal maps, because it is in them that we create the bonds that give meaning to our lives. So when those relationships crumble, we come to realize that our homes may be at risk of collapse. And that can be painful. If you have ever felt that type of longing, loneliness, or distress, you know how tough it can be. But don't get me wrong. Not every home is meant to last forever. And there is plenty of unnecessary suffering associated to homes that are sustained by all kinds of life support systems. Part of the challenge we all face is to distinguish between the homes that are shaking but still part of what we want to keep, and homes that are falling apart while holding us back. That is probably one of the most important things that we are called to figure out as we go through life. Now, as members of the Jewish people, we know what it means to lose our homes. We know what it means to live in exile. Too many times we were pushed to leave everything behind and to start all over again. But we were able to bounce back because we knew that the secret to our endurance has always been linked to our ability to stick together, working day in and day out in creating, strengthening, and sustaining new centers for Jewish life. We have survived because we have always known that the darkness only stays the nighttime and that in the morning it will fade away. We have prevailed because we know that it is not always gonna be this gray. And that is why I truly resonate with the Midrash that says that when Jerusalem and the Jerusalem temple were destroyed, The stones from the Jerusalem temple were scattered all around the world. And eventually, the Jewish people went to each and every one of those places where those stones landed and established there a house of study or a spiritual home. This midrash speaks volumes about both our resilience and our commitment to work on behalf of a strong and reliable Judaism for our times. But for that to happen, we have to understand how important it is to come together, to give back, and to get back to where we all belong. We have to get back. The Beatles told us that. And if that is not a call for a meaningful teshuvah, get back, then I don't really know what a meaningful teshuvah is all about. So if we want to get back, then we have to retell the story of our people, and we have to learn from the story of our people. So for example, according to the Torah, when the children of Israel left Egypt, they were free, but they were not united at all. As they were trying to figure out their lives after the trauma inflicted upon them by Pharaoh, the Israelites were divided into 12 very different tribes. So what did Moses do in order to unify them all? Moses was a genius. What Moses did is that he invited them to work together in the building of the tabernacle. The tabernacle was the beating heart of the camp as the people of Israel made their way all through the wilderness. The Mishkan became the symbol of that shared home that will bring everyone together. So for the Torah, the creation of the world, of the whole universe, is very important. But you know what? The world only makes sense when we come together to create something bigger than ourselves, when we devote some of our time and some of our resources in crafting something so precious that none of us can make on our own. Many years have passed since the people of Israel have built the tabernacle. And yet, this story, our story, has still the power to resonate with all of us. If you think about this, on the one hand, we are all coming out from the trauma of the pandemic that has left us with a couple of scars and more than a few pains. On the other hand, our local Jewish community here in Nashville is increasingly looking like the many different tribes that made it out of Egypt. Here in this beautiful sanctuary, today we have people who were born in Nashville, that very important secret society of long-time Nashvillians. But we also have families who have recently moved to Music City from almost every state in the Union, although mostly from California. We have folks who came here to retire, and we have young couples who are choosing this city, our city, to raise their little children. We have Democrats, we have Republicans, we have independents, we have Americans, Israelis, and even a few Latin American Jews who can speak Spanish with no accent at all. If you think about this, there is an enormous diversity in our midst. And that is something that can become the backbone of our strength if we dare to come together and embrace the difficult yet deeply rewarding mission of creating a sustainable home for everyone. Today, we are here to declare that for us, for you and me, the dream is not over. Today, we are here to remember that solastalgia loneliness, and spiritual homelessness are just a possibility, but they are not our unavoidable fate or future. We have come here to remind ourselves that we can work it out, especially if we are blessed with a little help from our friends. Today, we are here to hope that the words that we will read in tomorrow's Haftorah will ring truer than ever. Tomorrow we will read Prophet Jeremiah saying, Od evnech venivnet, I will build you firmly, and you shall take up your timbrels and go forth to the rhythm of the dancers once again. So as we try our very best, may God grant us the strength to not despair if we find ourselves walking through a long and winding road. Instead, let us remember that even those rocky paths have the potential to become the most amazing magical mystery tour on earth, and that there is a lot of beauty and inspiration to be discovered if we decide to keep walking together. It is up to us to embrace the challenge, to hold each other's hands, and to finally, hopefully, get back to where we all belong. Shana Tova.